They say you should never get too attached to material things, but when someone destroys the car you've worked years to buy, you don't just let it go. You make sure they regret it for the rest of their life. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. For me, that material thing was my 2025 Audi S6. Midnight black, twin-turbo V6, matte trim with ceramic brakes. It wasn't just a car, it was the dream I had chased since my early 20s. I worked through double shifts, skipped vacations, and nursed an old beat-up Corolla into the ground just to afford the down payment. The day I finally drove the S6 home, my neighbor Jake ran out with his phone already recording. "Bro, you finally did it," he said, circling the car like a proud uncle. "This thing is art on wheels." But not everyone saw it that way. That same evening, I caught Derek Miles staring at it from the sidewalk. Derek wasn't HOA president, wasn't even an elected board member. He was just a self-appointed HOA cop, always wearing his cheap tactical vest with HOA cop stitched across the front like some dollar store badge. Clipboard in hand, radio clipped to his shoulder, he strutted around the cul-de-sac as if the streets were his jurisdiction. I waved. He didn't wave back. His eyes never left the car. By the next morning, a citation flapped under my wiper blade. Violation, vehicle inconsistent with neighborhood aesthetic, signed HOA compliance. I nearly laughed out loud. The HOA bylaws were crystal clear. Nothing banned performance sedans. This was just Derek playing cop again. I emailed the board, politely laying it out. The Audi is legal, compliant, and nowhere in the CCNRs is it prohibited. But the following week, Derek doubled down. He started taking photos daily, circling my house in his SUV, jotting notes in that clipboard. He even stopped Jake in the street, saying, "That car lowers property values. It doesn't belong here." At the next HOA meeting, Derek brought it up in front of everyone, and to my shock, Karen Hargrove, the HOA vice president, backed him up. Karen was in her mid-50s, sharp suits, hair always pinned back like she was walking into a courtroom. "We have to preserve the image of this community," she said, looking around the room as if my Audi had personally offended her. "If residents think loud, flashy cars are allowed, we're going to see more of them." I stood my ground. Calmly. "There's nothing in the bylaws against my car. You can't invent rules because you don't like my choices." Karen pursed her lips. Derek smirked. And when the meeting ended, I caught Derek's mutter as he brushed past me in the hall. "If you don't handle it, I will." I should have taken that as the warning it was, because the very next morning I walked outside to find the windshield of my S6 shattered, spiderweb cracks across the glass, and sprayed across it in dripping red paint. One phrase stood out like a death threat: "I warned you." Neighbors gathered, whispering, some shaking their heads. Jake came jogging over, phone already out. "Dude, that's not random. That's targeted." He didn't have to say who he thought was behind it. I already knew. Derek. I pulled up the footage from my Ring camera, but whoever did it wore gloves and a hoodie, moving quick under the cover of night. Still, the posture, the build, even the cocky flip-off at the lens before walking off, it screamed Derek. I called the sheriff's office to report the vandalism, but while I was still on the line, my inbox pinged. An official-looking HOA violation notice, signed by none other than Karen Hargrove, vice president. Violation: excessive noise, vehicle inconsistent with community image. Vehicle must be removed within 14 days to avoid fines. My jaw tightened. Derek smashes my windshield, sprays a threat, and instead of condemning it, Karen backs him up with a violation letter. That night, I confronted Derek in the street. He was out front, leaning on his SUV, that fake HOA cop vest strapped on like he thought he was in a TV show. "You think this is funny?" I asked, holding up my phone with the photo of the vandalism. His grin widened. "Looks like somebody doesn't like your car. Maybe you should listen to the neighborhood." "You mean listen to you?" He didn't deny it, just tapped his clipboard and muttered, "Rules are rules." I took a step closer. "You don't make the rules, Derek, and breaking the law doesn't make you an authority. It makes you a criminal. Under California Penal Code 594, vandalism over $400 is a felony. That's where you're standing." For the first time, his smirk flickered. But before I could press it, Karen herself walked up, heels clicking against the pavement. She stood beside Derek like a lawyer next to her client. "Enough of this," she snapped. "We're trying to protect property values. If you cared about this community, you'd do what's best and get rid of that eyesore. This isn't personal. It's about standards." I laughed bitterly. "Standards? Spray painting my windshield? Slashing my car? That's your standard?" Her expression didn't change. "You have 14 days. I looked between them. Derek puffed up in his fake vest, Karen with her arms crossed like she held the moral high ground. And right then, I decided This wasn't just going to be about repairs. No, I was going to make them both answer for this. I turned to Jake, who was still recording from across the street. Save that video, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Because when this goes to court, it won't be my car on trial. It'll be them. The color drained from Derek's face for just a moment. Karen tugged at her sleeve, and I walked back inside, calm but seething. Because they thought this was about a car, they had no idea it was about to become a war. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. The morning after the confrontation, I drove my battered Audi S6 to a trusted shop downtown. Watching them shake their heads as they assessed the damage felt like being stabbed twice. The windshield? Shattered beyond repair. $1,200 replacement. The spray paint across the hood and roof? Because of the factory matte Nardo gray finish, it wasn't just a buff job. A full respray on specialized matte panels would run $700-800. Both side mirrors were cracked, $1,050 each, and the Pirelli P0 tires, every one of them had slow punctures. 4 replacements at $650 each came to $2,600. The grand total, $13,700. That's felony territory, my attorney Sam said as he went through the invoice. California Penal Code 594 is clear. Anything over $400 is felony vandalism. And since we have proof it's tied to HOA harassment, we'll also add civil damages. Jake brought over the video he'd recorded of my confrontation with Derek and Karen. The smug admission, Karen's defense, Derek tapping his clipboard like he was untouchable. It was all there. Sam's grin widened. This isn't just a case, it's a slam dunk. The next HOA meeting was standing room only. Neighbors had heard the rumors, but no one expected me to roll in with a projector and attorney at my side. I plugged in the footage, my Audi's windshield spiderwebbed with red paint, Derek lurking in the shadows, hoodie slipping just enough to catch his jawline. Then the video of Derek sneering at me in the street. Then Karen stepping in, backing him up, insisting I get rid of that eyesore. The room went dead silent. One neighbor muttered, "That's a crime." Another whispered, "Didn't he spray my kid's bike last year?" Murmurs spread like wildfire. Karen shot up from her chair. "This is harassment. You can't just parade edited videos in here and accuse board members." Sam stood, voice calm but sharp. "This isn't harassment. This is evidence. Under California Civil Code 3333, my client has the right to recover full damages. And under Penal Code 594, your friend Derek is facing felony vandalism. If you had knowledge of or endorsed this, you may be liable for aiding and abetting." Karen's face drained white. Derek shifted uncomfortably, his vest shoved under his chair, suddenly useless. The HOA president, who'd sat quietly until now, cleared his throat. "If this is true, the board cannot protect you. We'll cooperate fully with law enforcement." 2 days later, deputies rolled down the cul-de-sac. Derek was cuffed on his lawn while neighbors recorded. Karen tried to talk her way out of it, insisting she only enforced standards, but when investigators subpoenaed HOA emails, they found her messages backing Derek's actions. By the time it went to trial, the evidence was overwhelming. Derek was convicted of felony vandalism, sentenced to probation, community service, and restitution. Karen, she was stripped of her HOA role, fined heavily for civil liability, and forced to resign. But the best part? The judge ordered full restitution. Within 60 days, Derek and Karen were jointly responsible for paying me $13,700 plus legal fees. The HOA dissolved under pressure from the community. Derek's vest ended up in an evidence locker, Karen quietly sold her house, and the street was finally free from their harassment. And me? I slid back behind the wheel of my fully restored Audi S6, exhaust rumbling low, neighbors waving as I drove past. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's just justice served.